Hello and thank you for joining us today at Distracted by Life. Our podcast is all about making change within yourself and your relationships. We share conversations, stories, and explore ideas coming from our lifelong journey of the high points and especially the low points where we learn to face our fears or cope with pain, loss, and failure. We do this in a discovery quest to establish patterns around our past and understanding whether we are tripping up from our past or being held hostage by it. We work on identifying ways to move forward, aligning our core values, and unlocking the keys to self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-compassion, and letting go of what is not serving you positively in life. A better you is always there, ready to explore in a new world. So let's begin. Lessons learned are experiences distilled from past activities that should be actively taken into account in future actions and behaviors. Okay, so that's the definition. Amal is with us today, ready to answer a few questions on lessons learned in her life, both professionally and personally. And she'll also be sharing her insights on defining your own value. Hi, Amal, and welcome.
Hi, Dan. I'm so glad to be here with you again in a wonderful episode about lesson learned in life, personal, professional.
Okay, so basically everything I just said during the intro.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so Amal, let me ask you something. What lessons have you learned so far in generally in life?
Sure. Let's get started. So I have a list, to be honest, and some might even sound very familiar or universal to people out there, or even you can relate to. So I'm going to get started. First thing first, letting go of the past and release the pain. Very important. In previous episodes, I spoke about that as well. Karma has its timing in showing up. And a lot of the time you will never witness or see it yourself when it's taking place.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. And that is universal.
Yeah.
I am uniquely created and worthy. I matter, I belong, and I'm enough. One of the hardest battles to face, staying authentic to yourself. And that is actually, it's a huge thing for me, because you see what you get, right? And staying authentic doesn't always align with other people. And you're not going to be the biggest popular person in the room, and a lot of people won't be your fans. But staying authentic is definitely the hardest thing you could do. Letting go is the hardest practice that you can learn to do, because it's always easy for us to say, oh, just let it go. We need to look forward into the future. Don't look at the past. And yes, and in coaching, we actually try to, in coaching, I try to help my client into not being stuck in the past. But in order for you to move forward, it's about acknowledging what happened in the past and in your experience and what brought you here. And because you are now here, you're looking into moving forward. And so it is painful. You have to revisit a bit the past, but not get stuck. And then you move forward.
So to avoid ruminating.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Striving for perfection increases your level of insecurity and doubts. Oh my God, let me tell you about that one. That is huge in the professional aspect, because I worked with people that does that. And I was one of those people, especially when I interview. I'm always kind of doing this part where I'm a perfectionist. And you don't have to give me a hard time. I do it myself. I thought this is like a badge of honor. It's terrible. And I have it in my podcast of perfectionism and whatnot. That episode, I speak about that. So when you work with people that are so insecure, they gravitate towards the being perfectionism. And that's the part where they wordsmith to death. PowerPoint presentation has to be this and that. They get into the weeds of things, which should distract them from the actual overall, the message that they need to get across. Projects can be delayed because people are expecting, it has to be this way and that way, and everyone has an opinion about them. It's impossible to hide away from pain. It's really impossible. I learned that the hard way, definitely. I speak about that as well in my book, Love, Faith, and Mercy, and leaning into pain, letting go and leaning into pain. Not everyone will like you, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's upsetting to some people.
It is.
To hear, but
it was.
You've got to accept that.
For me, it
Can't
was.
please everybody.
Being a people pleaser, and that is my nature, to be honest with you.
You wear yourself out.
Oh, it's very emotionally taxing. Over time, you realize, what the hell am I doing here? There are some people there is no way you can please. Just no way you can please these people. And at some point, you have to stop and think and realize your own value. I had a talk in International Administrative Association a couple of weeks ago about that aspect of valuing and highlighting your value and valuing yourself. Find joy in the little things. When you live with people who suffer from depression for the longest time, and people that are dear to you and your heart, you realize that you get sucked into that minutia of the misery and the negativity, and life gets hard, and we make it hard because we get stuck into these places, in these dark places, so we also make it hard. But when you step out of that, and I'm not saying run away from pain, I said run towards it, because that's the only way you release and move on. I'm also saying, I'm not saying notice the positivity and everything is positive and be positive and stay positive.
Okay, that's irritating to a depressed person.
Yeah, it totally is. You have to relate, put yourself in their shoes, and you kind of have to see what they're suffering from and offer self-compassion, offer compassion to them and to yourself, because at some point you have to find joy in the little things, because they're not going to come in the grand scheme of the finales and the rosy things. They're going to be the little things in life that you take for granted and you don't pay attention to. It could be the best cup of coffee you have in the morning. It's as simple as that. Physical touch can heal. When we are so closed, we armor up and we harden from the outside, and we don't allow love in because we feel we don't want to feel rejection or disappointment again, or hurt or pain. So we armor up and we close up, and that doesn't allow love to enter or flow from us. But at the end of the day, love does heal. All of the things are temporary. Sometimes we again, when it comes to negativity and people that are in that dark place, you think that things are just, life is a forever struggle and it's never gonna end, and that's the way, that is your life, and you signed up, or that's the brush you paint to yourself, to your limiting beliefs and behavior and the pattern, and you fall into it over and over. But at the end of the day, to be really honest, everything is temporary. Nothing lasts forever. Pain doesn't last forever. It doesn't. But we can actually extend it by believing this is what we are meant to do, to live in pain, in suffering.
Yeah, regret and rumination can do that to you.
That extends it. And that's why when we go say, oh, life is unfair. Life is the way it is. It's unfair to us that we continue to live in that space. Regardless of what you have achieved, there will always be someone better than you. Isn't it right? Isn't it? This is universal.
You'll always lose when you compare yourself to somebody.
Most of my clients, that's where they get stuck sometimes at, or at least that's the entry to where they come in with. I've done it. I'm the first one to admit that That was me as well.
I think we've all done it at some point in our life.
That's why it's universal. I would sit here and be lying to you if I say I didn't feel all of those things. That's the whole point about coaching, is that I can be a good coach if I actually did not go through some of these scenarios myself, and this is what I'm trying to do, is help my client navigate through those aspects, because I figured out a formula. It might not work for every single client, but together we strategize and find ways that actually find the techniques and the tools that actually work for that specific client. Staying curious, never stop learning, and read a lot. I learned that later in life because my childhood, when I started, and my history to begin with was nowhere near, seek knowledge and be curious learner and you read a lot and all that stuff. No, I was like, okay, let's just get by. Getting by for a period of time might work, but then after at some point is not gonna work. If you are looking for career advancement and looking to succeed and all those kind of stuff you want to accomplish professionally, we've always done it like that statement is shooting yourself in the foot, and people always use that. Legacy systems and procedures.
You've got to be open to new opportunities and new ways to do things.
Absolutely, and we are in a world where it's moving quite fast, and we need to innovate, and we need to whatever we think we learned, we have to unlearn that and learn something new. It's pretty much what it is.
It's adapting to change.
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you will not be okay, and that is okay. There are times where you're not going to feel, chippery and happy, and, life is roses, and you're just not going to be in those mental state. And that's okay. Don't beat yourself up for that. Actually, those are the time where you need to take a pause and self-reflect and ask inquiry questions to yourself. What's bringing those feelings on? Why are you in this mental state of you're not okay? It is okay not to be okay, but you also need to get into the root of why you feel that way. It could be your gut, your intuition. Something is nagging, something is coming. It's trying to tell you something. It's exploring that feeling, not running away from it. Nurture, heal. Like nature does heal, because they, for me, the background I grew up in, it's like, sandstorms and deserts and things like that. So nature hasn't been my forte all along. And then coming to Canada, living here and finding all these beautiful green and trees. And even when I lived in Virginia, the scenic routes and all the gorgeous trees and everything, being open to nature does heal you. It feeds your soul. It actually gives you that sense of solitude and stillness. And another thing is the best place to practice meditation and mindfulness, which I do a lot.
That's true.
I do a lot of walking and meditation and do my mindful practice walking. And it's so beautiful. It just tames and calms your heart. Challenge my fears and push out of my comfort zone. That was huge learning for me in the last 3 years, because sometimes you let fear just overcome you and hijack you, and it does box you and limit you, and you stay within the parameters you built for yourself because it's the safety net. And then when you do that, you really can open yourself to anything big. And when I say big, it's not something like, oh my God, massively huge. It's just stepping one step at a time. Okay, an example. I have a fear of driving large cars like SUVs.
I can vouch for that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when we was time to change to a new car from this small, tiny Toyota that I love so much, Toyota Corolla, because I was able to navigate and manage it, and I didn't felt overpowered by it.
That was a big car to you back then.
It was, but I progressed. And then you said, with the snow, we can't do this. Like, we really have to have the SUV, right? It's safer for us to drive for when I have my son in the car and everything else, right? I was adamant, no, it's not happening because I can't do this. I can't drive big cars. It's probably simple for other people, but it was a big thing for me that I had to overcome. It's a completely irrational fear, but eventually it took me time, but I did overcome it. I drive the car now, and it's,
Well, I know your awesome husband had a lot of faith in you.
Yeah, and there is still one fear remain, and I'm still working on it. Is driving on the highway, right? I've done that when we lived in Virginia, the Beltway, but somehow here in Toronto,
you can do on the Beltway. You can do anywhere.
I know. I just can't I'm trying to make the transition into doing the 401 in Toronto, which is not my favorite thing.
So basically you're saying, be comfortable with discomfort.
Yes.
Okay.
And just challenge your fears. I mean, 1% each day. And that's what I do each day, even though I know this is gonna cause me like I'm uncomfortable doing it. I do go ahead and do it. Mind you, don't expect perfection, right? But give yourself credit for actually trying that one thing that's something that you didn't think you would do.
Yep.
Believe in my capabilities. That is very simple, right? You believe that you have unique gifts and talent, and you gotta believe in them. And when you believe in them, the world believe in them. You have to first believe in what you got, your character strength, your talent, what makes you uniquely you. And that is what you value. That's within your core value, and that's what you believe, and that's something that keeps you going, that builds your self-confidence. You can't expect people to believe in you if you can't believe in first knowing what's your strength and kind of understanding your weaknesses. And when I say your weaknesses, those are good, because those are the things that keeps you human. Those are the things that you try to improve on 1% each day in your life. That's what matters. Weaknesses are not the end of all things, and is not a negative thing. Practice kindness and compassion to myself, because over time, the inner critic, the perfectionism, those are, and the doubts, lack of confidence, those are all sabotaging patterns and thoughts.
Self-sabotaging.
Yes.
We're usually hardest on ourselves.
Absolutely. So you need to give a path to yourself to practice that kindness and self-compassion, because again, that's what makes you human. You want to be human. You want to be vulnerable. You gotta empathize with yourself so you can extend that empathy to others as well. So if you always judging yourself so harshly, there is no way you wouldn't be judging other people in the same manner.
Yeah.
Friends will come and go for each season. The good ones will stay, and those who are meant to teach you something will do so and move on. So don't dwell on losing some friendships along the way. They're there to teach you something, to discover something about yourself, and move on. I know that in the past, it felt difficult to lose friendship along the way, but I realized God put them in my life for a reason and for a season. They are there to do a job. They are meant to be there to do something for you, to serve you in a purpose, in a way, and they will exit. And I should not dwell on that. I should be grateful. I should show gratitude and move on. You get what you give. That's pretty much it.
So, okay, that aside, but what about yourself, though? What have you learned about yourself?
And highlighting my own value. Yeah. What I learned about myself in knowing my own value is that I'm a very nurturing person, very nurturing, kind-hearted, strong, brave, and resilient person. I did not think I am those things. I really didn't. Giving people chances and is also something that I didn't think I am. So noticing everything in life about myself and the value is that I am a kind-hearted person. I am brave. I am strong. I am actually quite resilient, and I do give people chances. And here's one thing that I don't understand, but it's over and over. I'm an introvert, and I am ridiculously humble. I can't give credit to myself for things. It's just hard for me, and that's why I
make up for your lack of humility, because I am incredibly unhumble. So,
and I'm okay with that.
We match perfectly there. Yeah.
I also learned that if someone thinks or tells me that I can't do something, I rebel. I totally rebel, and I get very laser focused and determined to prove otherwise. And that served me well in my professional life and career. Because
I have to say something now. When I first met you, when somebody said you can't do something, you didn't. One of the biggest changes that I've seen you make in my time of knowing you is that you took their word that you couldn't do something and you turned it around. You actually proved to yourself that you can do something.
That's the healing part. Remember,
it's a huge thing in your life.
In our last,
I saw.
Yeah, in our last episode, this part about healing. Growing up, being told that you'd amount for nothing, or you can't do this, or and I kept going on about life in being in the shadow, and very timid kid, and very shy actually. And that's where the introvert part comes. I am very shy until I get warm and get to know the person. Then I can.
People like that.
Yeah, and so I rebel. The healing part is I rebel. And the way I rebel, I don't voice it and make a big statement. I rebel silently by getting laser focused. Yep. Getting determined to prove that person or that thing otherwise. This happened in my professional career because people always underestimated the short, petite, kind of silent, quiet, introvert, shy person. The rookie executive assistant. And I wanted to show the world that used to be a stay-home mom before she came back to the world of entering the world of the workforce and work in the financial industry. I wasn't going to let that journey define me. It was a wonderful thing. I stayed home because I had a kid. I had a child that I wanted to care for. And now it's time for me to... Isn't that what people do for women in general? Is they get labeled?
Yeah.
Sadly. She's a wife, she's a mother, she can't be anything else, too much to juggle.
Well, I remember the job interviews you had.
Yeah.
Why is there a gap in there? Well, I had a child. Oh.
You got nothing to offer, bye-bye. Yeah.
I remember those when you went on those interviews.
Exactly. So it's, don't tell me I can't do something because I will try to go do it. It might not be to your standard or expectation, but I'm going to find a way of doing it. And if I can't do it, I'm going to find a different kind of way of doing it, or find someone else that can show me how to do it. One way or another, I'm going to figure it out.
Podcast was the last two words I'd put together when thinking of us years ago.
Yeah.
So, case rested.
Absolutely. So, mind you, I do it within reason. I acknowledge when it's time, though, to drop it and move forward, because there are some things that are beyond what I can explore for certain reasons, or whether it's external reason affecting that and impacting that. So I that's where I stop and say, you know what, it's in God's hand. That's what as far as I can go with it. So now we talked all about my points and my stuff. What about you, Dan?
What?
What life lessons you learned?
Jeez.
And what have you learned about yourself through it?
First of all, I'm not Batman. I've had to accept that. Okay. Life lessons that I've learned. Never stop learning every day. Even the smallest things can teach you a lesson. I guess you just have to be open to see it. You did say something earlier, which I have to agree with. Always read. But most importantly, take the time to understand what you've just read. Don't skim. It's too much. And I guess there's probably so many, but last one, stay in touch with people who keep you grounded, keep you humble. I need to stay in touch with a lot of people to keep me humble. That's all I can think of, really.
So what have you learned about yourself in this whole process, up to this point anyway?
Well, volunteering to do podcasts to put me on the spot it's always a challenge. Okay, what have I learned? You know what? I'm not perfect. I was really, really hard on myself, but I accept that I'm not perfect. I think that's a biggie. And to stick to your convictions, and to keep trying.
That's lovely.
Getting back to you again, let's talk about the professional front. So what lessons have you learned professionally?
Well, here's what I learned professionally. Very useful, lessons. Develop a skill that people value, because if you want to keep a job, if you want to compete in the current environment, you need to do your homework and learn a skill that people will value. Failure can teach you more than your successes. It really does. Because every time things come easy and you succeed, there is nothing there you're learning. You're just adding coins, stars and coins to your bucket. But failure is where you actually get to find out how you do something different the next time, what you can avoid, and actually it teaches you about yourself too. Can you handle it? Or would you crumble? You crumble when there is setback and failure, and you give up and you hide in a dark hole. Outsource or delegate the things you don't like. That's a good one in my role anyway, as an executive assistant. There are things that we don't always like, and there is ways to outsource them or delegate them. It's especially the savvy strategic assistant knows how to do that skill. Stay loyal to the people who helped you along on the way up.
Yes, that is important.
I had people who believed in me where others shut the door in my face, professionally, honestly. And that made a huge difference in my life. And to those who would hear this podcast, you know who you are. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for believing in me and seeing me through. When you choose a career, select one that gives you a sense of purpose and ignite your passion. Because otherwise you're just dragging and you're settling. And goes back to the fact that you're not stretching yourself. You're getting the easy way out, and just the lazy or the easy way out, whatever you want to call it. The point is, if you settle and you choose something because that's what's available, then you're going to become complacent and you will lose your passion, and you're going to coast. I don't know about you, but I don't want to coast. I would if I am at that level. But I've worked and I've seen people that are coasting early on and still in their career because they just don't have the passion for what they've chosen, because it was just easy. Build working relationship because it's about what you can do, but more about who you know. you know this one. It's basically networking and building relationship, because really at the end of the day, it's not about what you can do, the skill set you bring, because they don't even pay attention to that anymore. It's about who you know. Yeah, especially if you want to work in certain organizations, or you're looking for a job, you're trying to get an interview on another podcast because you're trying to sell your books or things like whatever it is. I've seen it over and over and over. You know, if you scream the louder and you have the biggest follower, then that means you're really great and people judge you from the surface. And
yeah, networking is big.
Yeah. Waiting for others' validation may never come, and it takes away your power if you keep waiting for it.
Yeah, don't rely on other people's validation to validate yourself. Learn to validate yourself
and
first.
And know your value, and know how to highlight that value and how you can speak to it. And it's not cocky, it's confident.
Yes.
With a sprinkle of humility, but knowing how to do that, knowing how to translate that so you don't come across as cocky. Surround yourself with people who encourage you to reach your potential and are happy to celebrate with you.
That's a biggie.
It is huge, because and this is also universal. We all know we have people in our life, not everybody happy for our success. And not everybody wants to celebrate with us genuinely. And not everyone wants to be our biggest fan. We could have all sorts of friends, but not everybody in that same level.
Now, you've always heard me say this, and other people have heard this too: success breeds success. But it's not asset success that I talk about when I say that. It's emotional success, it's relationship success. That's the success. You hang around with successful people, you will become successful yourself.
Absolutely. You also hang around with people who hunt for the good in life. It helps to stay, in that healthy state of mind, the well-being of your state of mind. I'm not going to use positivity. It's more about the well-being of that state of mind of yours. So you are able to be resilient and fight the battles. They will always be battles to fight. Create a process that works best in how you get your work done. You don't have to follow I've learned this huge in my role, because every time you move in with different companies or different department, they want you to just slip in and you kind of stay in the shadows and basically follow what's already there. No, if you can do the job and results will be the same, but the way completing a task or finishing a project, there is not one way. There is so many different ways of doing something. It doesn't have to be my way or your way, but really it's what works best for you to be able to get the job done. It doesn't matter how you're getting there, because that is your process, as long as the result is there. Great habit will shape your future. It's all about routine and habit, how you start your day, how you end your day, and in between how you take that break, the breaks you take, those mental breaks. You have to build mental breaks in your day. Oh my God, busyness and I work 12 hours and so much stuff, a lot on the go, whatever. That doesn't make you a hero. That makes you overwhelmed, diagnosis with busyness disease, and can't get yourself organized to come up for air.
We're all busy, but organization and time management are biggies.
Yeah, you have to live a life in a mindful way. And how you start your day in the morning set the stage. I start 5 o'clock in the morning. I get time for my coffee, getting ready. I do my meditation. I journal a lot throughout my day. I end my day with meditation as well. So that helps me to remain in that right frame of mind and shut the noise and chaos and that to-do list. As an executive assistant, it's a professional hazard when you have a to-do list in your mind 24/7, because you're getting other people who rely on you, organize an executive, a whole team, and also doing your job. And you got to come home and you got to do that aspects of your life as well. Ask for what you want. It doesn't mean you will get it though. It's simple, and again, people in the professional working environment would know this. Everybody tells you gotta speak up, you gotta ask for what you want, yes, you could do that. Be brave enough and put yourself out there and ask for what you want, understanding that you will not always get what you want. And are you okay with that disappointment? Or you need to manage that disappointment, because not everybody, you will not always get what you want. Sometime you will, and sometimes you won't. You have to come to terms with how you're going to manage the disappointment of that. Never get discouraged. Expectation and biases will stifle your gifts if you allow them to. So when you are placing expectation on yourself, or letting others, especially others in around the people that you work with, place certain type of expectation, and you also deal with biases in professional setting. Expectation and biases goes hand in hand. It will stifle your gifts. And
what do you mean by your gifts?
The gifts you have, the talent, what you can do, because now you're trying to achieve those expectations, and you see the biases, and you're trying to stay in the sidelines because there is biases. You're aware of them. You're gonna stifle your gifts, what you're capable, your potential. You won't reach your full potential when you let expectation and biases hold you back. Don't accept mediocrity. If an environment is not the right place for you, then you have to come to terms with that and find what really works for you. It's a two-way street. It can't be always about them, the organization, the people, the managers, the bosses.
It's always take.
There's
got to be a little bit of give here and there.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to be one heck of a miserable employee, and you will coast, you will lose your purpose and your passion.
And then you get into apathy, which is a whole different story.
Yes, absolutely. Apathy is a real ugly thing. Again, when I said about mediocrity, most of the world is mediocre. Experiences, product, work ethics are mediocre because most people play into this norm. We always want to, we see someone else's success, someone else's work ethic, so-and-so does this and that. And we admire all these outside external things that we see. We don't see the struggle behind those. So what happened is, don't allow yourself to be sucked into this type of mediocre thinking. Rise above it. You don't have to do or paint your path because someone else have this or that, or just stay focused. Focus on what your abilities, what your potential is, what you can do, and keep on doing. Keep on doing and master your craft. There is nothing wrong with mastering your craft, because at the end of the day, when you do, you will not be, you actually won't allow them to go unnoticed. They just can't dismiss or unnotice your talent, because it is your craft and they can see it. People will not like you for no real reason. Don't waste your energy trying to change that. At times it goes deeper for them than let's get to know each other. Yeah. Again, professionally, I've come into new teams and new places where I've just, for no other reason than I was just not just like that. I realized that there is no point in trying to please them or to change their mind, because it goes deeper for them than just that. When you are so good at your job and what you do, and you have specific real skills that really shine without you even having to toot your own horn, and it's so visible to others, and you're the newbie, of course someone is not going to be crazy about you.
So getting back to the personal side, you can't please everybody.
You can't. But
and knowing that you can't please everybody, don't be upset about it.
And don't dumb your skills down so you can fit in and you stay out of the radar.
Yeah. Off the radar, yeah.
Yeah, And this is what brings me to my last point. Jealousy is a real thing in a professional setting. Watch out for it.
That.
Yeah, and learn how to protect yourself from its negative impact, because jealousy is real thing, and I see it every time within my role, within supporting C-level executive in a different dynamic, whatever. It's a real thing. You have to watch out for it, and you have to manage that negative impact, because it will have a negative impact, whether on you, your state of mind, or how that would affect you, the work you do and how you work with others.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So with that said, I would love to hear your part, Dan, on what you've learned on what professionally, honestly.
What I learned professionally. You know what? Okay, I'll be short. Lead with empathy. Always lead with empathy. Don't talk down to anyone, regardless of position. Hearing your team is easy. Listening to what they really have to say, that's a learned skill. Work on that one.
So deep, active listening.
Yeah. And whatever you do in life, no matter what job you're in or whatever you are stuck in, do it 100% and be proud of it no matter what it is, because it will build your own confidence and pride. Whatever you do it 100%. You'll know when it's time to move on. You'll know whether you need to be there or not.
That's a good point. There is one point that I know that was big, is that you reinventing yourself, and you did that.
Oh, yes. That's right. Completely switched careers. Yeah, shifted it. That's because it was time. Glad I did.
I'm proud of you, because someone else would have said, at this stage in my life, right? They wouldn't bother. It's scary. I am very proud of you, because you totally shifted. Huge. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate it. And I'm going to conclude this discussion with a quick kind of a last summary, that life is a continuous learning experience. Throughout our lives, we keep rising and falling, picking up essential lessons along the way. Some of these lessons come from our own experience, yet there are others that we learn by watching or even reading in a book. No matter how much we learn from the books, there is a significant difference between practical and theoretical experience. Many other life lessons that we cannot learn until we face certain situations in our lives. Most people would say that some lessons come too late. I disagree, because they say that it comes too late and catching off guard and unprepared. I challenge that thought, because I honestly believe challenges or situations arise when it's time for them. However, it's up to us to recognize what mental state or hindrance in life we are facing to have the clarity required to move forward or make a decision. Thank you so much for tuning in into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I wish you well. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Amal, and thank you very much for joining us here at Distracted by Life episode today. It was actually quite interesting. If you are interested to learn more, check out Amal's website at amalcandido.com, where she talks about her coaching world with links to other podcasts and her books as well. With that said, stay tuned for our next episode, and from Amal and myself, thanks again, and talk to you soon.